A firestorm of outrage and scandal continues to surround a volunteer fire company in Delaware County tonight after some firefighters were allegedly caught using racial slurs in a Zoom call.
And this will be bigger than any homicide in Philadelphia, than any multiple homicide, than any quintuple shooting, sextuple shooting. This will be bigger than all of that. This will be bigger than the fact that they're on pace to break last year's historic, infamous record for murders. And you can't fix that. You can blame the media. Well, the media put this out there. You can't fix the fact that the people in the community where the murder rate has doubled. They went from having about 280 a year to now they're going to have about 550 this year. Just in the last 2-3 years, it's doubled. You can't fix the fact that they'll be more gravitated to this story, more incensed about this story, more mesmerized, hypnotized, captivated by this story than they will the genocide that's going on in their own community. You cannot fix that.
A firestorm of outrage and scandal continues to surround a volunteer fire company in Delaware County tonight after some firefighters were allegedly caught using racial slurs in a Zoom call. Action News reporter George Solis is live in Glen Olden with the very latest. George.
Yeah, Rick, and the fire company will remain closed while the investigation into that scathing audio begins.
So the people who live in this community won't have the service of their fire department because some members allegedly, and I haven't seen this yet, but use racial slurs on the Zoom call. You won't fix this. That mindset that we don't want the fire department to be open because somebody at the fire department used racial slurs on the Zoom call. But what if there's a Never mind.
Yeah, Rick, and the fire company will remain closed while the investigation into that scathing audio begins. As you can imagine, this audio opening up a lot of old wounds for people in this community, and tonight the calls for justice are growing. Tonight, a Darby Township fire station finds itself in the hot seat. The Briarcliff Fire Company now suspended for at least a month, stemming from allegations firefighters were caught using racial slurs on audio recordings that have gone public.
Black on white. I understand that.
Black on white. That's the bleeping problem. Blacks are taking over bleep. Some people talk like this all the time. They talk like this on TV all the time. Twitter, Instagram, publicly, they always talking about gliders all the time. Always attributing some nefarious deed to gliders as a whole. Always projecting their issues on the gliders, their insecurities on the gliders. This is nothing. If this was the other way, this wouldn't even be. We would never heard of this. This happens all the time the other way. A glider wouldn't even report this. This is how crazy it is. A glacier glider hearing this in the workplace wouldn't even report this. This is normal how some people talk about glacier gliders.
Black on white. I understand that. Black skin.
According to township officials, the audio surfaced following a virtual meeting late last month to discuss the possible consolidation of the region's 3 volunteer fire companies. On that call, members of the Goodwill Fire Company reportedly noticed Briarcliff had not completely disconnected from the call.
So we thought there was going to be some kind of closing arguments.
Instead, for more than an hour and a half, racist, insensitive, and disparaging comments towards black firefighters from other fire companies were heard. Also drawing ire, audio that appears to mock the name of 8-year-old Fontability, who was shot by police in the county last fall.
Two things. This girl wasn't shot by cops. She was at a football game with her parents. Some thugs opened fire on each other. No, some thugs opened fire on the crowd. Some other people that were in the crowd. Cops saw the thugs shooting at the crowd at the football game. Cops returned fire onto the thugs. One of the bullets from one of the cops' guns hit this little girl. The only reason the cops were shooting because some young thugs from her neighborhood came through spraying the crowd of football fans that were leaving the game. So let's get that straight. Cops didn't just roll up and shoot this girl. Second of all, this is wrong. If they're trying to her name is like Fanta, so like Fanta, like the soda, orange or Fanta grape. All right, I guess that's racist because, but some people celebrate death all the time. They smoke packs, they clown dead people. They have TikTok viral trends that are going on about making fun of dead people, and I've chronicled a few of them. And make sure you guys hit the subscribe button and click all. When you hit the subscribe button, make sure you click the tab that says all. They give you several options. Click the one that says all so you'll be notified about all of my live streams every time I go live. And many of you guys have told me that you can't share the videos because your social media following is too woke, and it will cause you a lot of problems if you share these videos on social media. And that's fine. So make sure you guys support the channel in other ways. Get some merch. Get your Ock Nation merch. Go to the store. The link is in the description. And check out the merch. Donate via PayPal, Super Chat, Cash App. Join my Patreon so that you can always find me. Many ways you can support the channel if you feel like you can't share the videos because, you'll be, ridiculed and castigated on social media, and you'll be, just outed as, someone who knows about what's really going on. And you don't want to be that type of person nowadays. So yeah, just other ways to support the channel.
The inflammatory audio prompted Goodwill Fire Company to draft a letter to alert township leadership.
It breaks my heart, because we're all here to do a job.
By Wednesday evening, town leaders had heard enough and voted unanimously to suspend the fire company.
I am appalled to have to stand here today and hear about these racist comments.
Today, local and state leaders condemned the speech and vowed to investigate.
Whether or not a crime occurred, hate speech is always morally wrong.
Meanwhile, a community has been left to question whether those charged with saving lives may have ever had their backs to start with.
As a black woman, That is my community that they was talking about. I don't feel safe and I don't feel comfortable.
So the reason you don't feel safe in the community where sisters get killed every 5.5 hours by sunmen, in a community where there's, look, little girls get killed on the regular by stray bullets. Carjackings all the time. Home invasions. Gang fights. And that's just the major stuff. We're not even talking about the little annoying stuff, the littering, the loitering, the loudness. Just all the other petty stuff. The reason she don't feel safe is because, the Zoom call with some firefighters said some, I guess, racist things about other firefighters, sun fighters from another fire department. That's what has her feeling unsafe.
As me as a black woman, that is my community that they was talking about. I don't feel safe and I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, Rick, county officials said tonight that neighboring fire companies will be able to pick up the slack while the investigation unfolds. Meanwhile, the family of Fontability issuing a statement tonight about the audio, calling it appalling. You're live in Glen Olden tonight. George Solis, Channel 6, Action News. Rick?
George, thank you.
Well, occasionally, New Jersey residents who go to sell their homes make a surprising discovery in the deeds and paperwork filed decades ago that can be a disturbing reminder of the history of discrimination faced by African Americans and other minorities. For Black History Month, News 12's Brian Donahue took a look at the lasting legacy of so-called racial covenants.
I'm on Wayne Avenue in the Bergen County town of River Edge, where, like many people across New Jersey, residents are unaware of a disturbing fact about their neighborhood. It says no persons of any race other than the Caucasian race shall use or occupy any building or any lot.
It's incredible.
These homes, including Suzanne Lyons' home, were built decades ago for white people only. It's found in the deed filed in 1940 for a large section of a 100-acre family farm. John Pell Zabriskie, a former mayor of River Edge, and his brother Jesse were selling to a developer who would build many of these homes. A clause that reads, no person of any race other than the Caucasian race shall use or occupy any building or lot.
Now, why do they assume that that's like only about some people? I mean, that's no person of any race other than Caucasians. Why does that have to be just about some people? Why can't that be about crouching tigers on burritos, Eskimos, sand sunmen? Why can't it be about why does it only have to be about us? Why do we have to bear the weight of all that? Why do we have to hold that heavy limestone of racism all by ourselves? And why can't gliders have their own areas? Especially back then, right? Why can't they have their own areas now? We got our own areas. Why? I just don't understand. You want to be, you love gliders. You love because their stuff is good. They got good stuff, good schools, safe neighborhoods. I get why some people want to be around them all the time. I get that. But your public narrative of them is that they're so dangerous and violent, but yet the thought of not being around them sends chills up your spine.
A clause that reads, "No person of any race other than the Caucasian race shall use or occupy any building or lot." There's an exception only for domestic servants.
I would like to say I'm really surprised, but in fact, I'm probably not that surprised, just because of kind of what things were like back then.
There is sadly nothing unique about this neighborhood or River Edge in particular. Here's another deed from a tract of undeveloped land being sold in Ramsey in 1948. It reads, "No person of the Negro blood or race shall be permitted to own, rent, or occupy any part of said premises."
Okay, now this one, okay, this is one that is specifically for us. Okay, 1948, get mad about this. Now what? Now, it's still the same thing today. You saw that one couple who tried to sell it. Listen. We bring down property prices and property values because of the behavior of the element of our community. And the ones of us with sense coddle and protect and shield that element, that nefarious, that criminal element of our community. They get cover from the 85% that isn't out here actively being menaces to society. When we come around homicides, there's homicides. There's a spike in homicides. There's a spike in carjackings. All that stuff brings property values down. I promise you that this ordinance had nothing to do with the color of your skin, son, man. I promise you.
It reads, "No person of the Negro blood or race shall be permitted to own, rent, or occupy any part of said premises." Such racial covenants were common across New Jersey on large developments and individual homes alike, from Cape May to Sussex County throughout the first half of the 20th century.
So we could be the maid. We would be the help.
Maria Doherty is half Irish, half Filipino. Her husband is black. She took in the news that her family would not have been allowed to live in her home when it was first built.
Like seeing that and knowing that.
Liberals love this. Jason Whitlock talked about this. Racial gold. When they find pieces of racism, it's like gold. It's like striking gold. It's like hitting the lottery. This woman is giddy, and she's a white woman. Like, she's half Irish and half. She's a white woman, man. Anyway, whatever. She's of color, I guess. Whatever. Look how giddy she is to find this. Yes, we found some. There's not enough racism, man, to go around. It's simply not enough. And this, at least they didn't have to manufacture it. They just had to go back to 1948. And what, the other one was the 1800s or early 1900s to dig up some racism. They found it. They're happy, as it proves what they talk all day on Twitter and Facebook and the rhetoric they spew in their little circles, that everything's race. So you found it. Enjoy. It's going to be a while before you find some more.
So we could be the maid. We would be the help.
Maria Doherty is half Irish, half Filipino. Her husband is black. She took in the news that her family would not have been allowed to live in her home when it was first built.
Like seeing that and knowing that, we live here now, I think it's, we've come a long way, right? Like,
such covenants were struck down by a Supreme Court decision in 1948. But by then, Laura Sullivan with the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice says these practices, along with redlining by banks and other policies, had taken their toll.
That it's really important that people know that our policies have helped predominantly white families build wealth while creating barriers to those same opportunities for Black families and other families of color.
Across broad swaths of suburban New Jersey, Black families were locked out of that source of wealth, a prime reason why today the median net worth for Black families is just $6,000 compared to $300,000 for white families.
So those ordinances are the reason why the mean wealth of some people is $6,000, some families, and the mean wealth of glider families is $300,000. The $294,000 difference. And you think you're gonna sit here and tell me that that's because, nah, because we see too many some people acquire wealth nowadays, right in front of our faces in the public sphere. And what do? They get a glider wife, send their beige kids to all glider private schools, and move to all glider neighborhoods. And 90% of them squander the wealth and are broke in a few years. Very few of them can retain the wealth. So the reason is for that chasm is very little to do with things like this, because we're seeing some people all day long acquire wealth, and it goes straight to jewelry and cars and trips and trinkets that they buy from other groups of people. I don't believe that, because if the top group of some people that were acquiring wealth, if you just used them as a test case, it's not this. This had nothing to do with that chasm, that disparity, shocking disparity in wealth between Sun families and glider families.
Broad swaths of suburban New Jersey, Black families were locked out of that source of wealth, a prime reason why today the median net worth for Black families is just $6,000 compared to $300,000 for white families.
And the policies that we had 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, about going back to the foundation of our state with slavery, are still having impacts.
So, for Black History Month, a reminder from the forgotten pages of the past of how that shameful history continues to echo forth today. Brian Donahue, News 12, New Jersey.
Really sad. Well, certainly a reminder of how much progress we've made and how much work still needs to be done.